Hi guys, and welcome to my third video. This is going to be on the Sorare Pro side of things. So in my last video, obviously we talked about Rivals, and that is the free-to-play side. And this video we're going to be looking at the Pro side. There's a couple of differences. I think for the Pro side, it's more like obviously you have to predict the lineups before they're announced. And also there's no tactics and things like that, so it's very much so about getting the players that you think are going to start and do well, obviously. Whereas Rivals, obviously, you've got the tactics side of things and you know who's going to play. So yeah, that's sort of the difference in the two. And obviously, Pro, you have to pay for the cards. So yeah, so we're going to start off with where it all began, and it is from this spreadsheet. If you know me, you know I love a spreadsheet. I like to be organised. I don't want to just go in and... Obviously, everyone is different. I don't want to just go in and start buying things that I don't have an idea or a plan for. I like to be strategic in how I'm sort of doing things. So I'm not just buying to buy in a sense, and I think that's where a lot of people might make mistakes in Sorare when they're just starting. They might just think, oh, let me get him, I just want him, which is fine. And also that is pretty much what I just wanted to talk about today. So you can see here straight away, I watch every Premier League game, so I really wanted to focus the Premier League competition. I think that is the best way to start Sorare Pro side, is look at the competitions. You can see here, if we go on to Pro, and you can see all of the competitions that you can enter. This is probably not a great example because it is midweek, but let's just say you can see all of the competitions you can enter here. Obviously, there's a lot more on the weekend, but during this midweek, you have training, under 23, challenger, all-star, European Classic, and the Mbappe competition. On the weekend, you would have things like contender, champion, all these other like Premier League, Bundesliga, La Liga, all these other competitions. Learn the competitions and really identify where you want to compete in, essentially. So for me, it's Premier League and under 23s. I use the under 23s as more of a fun side for me, because it means I can get players from outside the Premier League that I think probably will eventually end up in the Premier League or like be at that champion level. And I just see it, yeah, as more of the fun side. And then the side where I'm actually really focusing would be the Premier League, or the side that I want to do well in, because that's where I have the most knowledge. So yeah, sort of builded rough lineups. This is not how I line up every week, by the way. This is just sort of like a rough guidance of who I want in the team, and then you need to do things like this because then you need to think about rotation. So for example, so we'll start off with, obviously the first things I bought really was my Newcastle stacks. The reason I've done this is because I just have the most knowledge on Newcastle. Therefore, when it comes to lineup building, I know maybe not all 11 that are going to play, but maybe like I know 9, which is enough for nearly 2 sort of lineups in the pro side. So with that being said, I was sort of like, okay, I know the most about Newcastle. Let's buy the collections there. And obviously, the reason why I bought all of the collection is not only because I live in Newcastle and I like Newcastle, but the 5% bonus is quite important. So for me, when it comes to classic and in season, I was always going to focus heavily on in season. When I, sort of engaged in content and learnt the differences between classic and in season. But I do still want to sort of dip my toes in the classic side. So obviously I've got the classic Newcastle boys. I do recommend. I would say personally, from my perspective, if you have less than a 3% collection bonus, then classic in terms of stacking is not really worth it because you're going to get out bonused by people who have just been on the platform longer or they've got higher levels. Assuming that you're starting like today, I would just focus in season because then you can level up your cards and you'll be on the same sort of you'll be fighting against the people that have also just bought the cards, if that makes sense, as opposed to this old Newcastle collection. If I stacked the Newcastle, I'd always lose to the people that are just ahead of me, because you can see here I'm 52nd in terms of like the rank of collections of Newcastle, so there'll be 50 people ahead of me if I stack only Newcastle, for example. So yeah, so that's why I would always recommend in season. I think a lot of people will recommend in season. But yeah, so obviously I got the Newcastle, and then this is where sort of the smart, I guess, comes into it. Is then you identify what teams you want to go, or the collections you want to start building next, but you be a little bit more picky with it. So you can see here, I've got obviously Spurs, Aston Villa, Chelsea, Spurs, that sort of contingent, and I'm trying to aim for the 3% in them ones. The reason I've identified these ones is sort of, not only are they midweek, because obviously I'm trying to get the as much utility out of the players I buy as possible. So if I had a choice to buy someone that's really good but can only play in the Prem, or a player that's maybe, not as good but still good, plays in the Prem, plays under 23s, plays for his international team, all these things, I'm thinking, okay, rather go with somewhere a bit more utility, just because it's all about opportunity, right? And you've got to think about that opportunity cost when you're paying for these players. So yeah, this is where sort of like the lineup sort of works. So you identify who you want in that main position, for example, like Ian Matson for Aston Villa, and then you identify, okay, who would be in his position if he doesn't play. So you've sort of got to think of it like, if you want to purchase a player like Ian Matson, it almost comes in like a double package of like Digne as well. So it's like not just Ian Matson you're paying for his replacement as well. So realistically, if you want to buy a sort of stack or a build, and you're thinking, oh, that's 5 players there, to be honest, you should have roughly about 9 per collection. You can see here I've got 9 Villa players, 11 Spurs, 4 Chelsea. Like, you want to be in that sort of like region of about, I'd say, like 7 to 9. And the reason I'm saying that is because obviously the keeper will remain. You can buy the backup goalkeeper, which is probably advised, but generally speaking, if you're trying to like really minimalize spend, you'll buy Ian Matson and Digne. So then you don't have to worry about like if Ian Matson breaks his neck. Okay, bit extreme. If Ian Matson breaks his leg, sorry, no, maybe not neck. If he breaks his leg, then you can put the Digne in, and there's no really stress behind it. And yeah, so pretty much that was the idea. And then obviously to minimize spend as well, you really want to get an optimal classic level card in that in-season stack. So a player like Son, obviously he's going to be very expensive in season, so you buy the classic version, and yeah, save yourself a bit of money. With that being said, yeah, so I don't really, I don't really look at this too much, but I know a lot of people are quite big on the money side of Sorare. Obviously, if you're putting a lot of money in, then you want to be, you want to make sure that you're not losing the money. But if you were checking my gallery, you can see here that roughly my value of my roster is about 1,000, give or take. And I've spent, again, this is good to track, guys. Always track your spending. Everyone has a different budget. Some people might only want to spend £10 on Sorare, which is doable. Some people, like myself, might want to spend a bit more. Or, yeah, I mean, some people, spending tens of thousands on this game, which is good for the site. So here I have a rough estimate of how much I've spent. I don't I mean, it's pretty much the same to me, like how much I've spent in comparison to how much the value is. Obviously, the value is always going to go down in Sorare, because the more you use them, the less utility they have, if that makes sense. Like, let's just say you buy a Morgan Rogers, you have to think of it like, okay, his utility is, for example, I don't know, 600 games. and you've bought him and he has 600 games utility, yeah, before he retires or whatever, then if you use him in 1 game week, 2 game week, 3 week game week, then he only has 590 left. Obviously, you're going to pay less for a 590 game Morgan Rogers than a 600 game. Do you know what I mean? So the value is always going to be depreciating. It's just about how much you can make back, and how much you can yield back from the cards before they ultimately plateau at their sort of floor price, or where they sort of sit in terms of like this is their minimum buy, which would probably be at the end of the season. So you want to try and make back that the differential pretty much. So yeah, that's what I've tried to do with the gallery. I'll definitely be doing sort of like a lineup builder, how I build my lineups ahead of this weekend, for sure, and sort of show you guys my thought process. So, but generally speaking, you can see here that my cards are either in season, as you can see here, most of them are in season, or they are under 23s, and classic, or they are both, or they have like midweek utility and things like that. So yeah, if we look at my Premier League players, obviously that's where I have most of my cards. Yeah, you can see we have a sort of a Champions League stack with Aston Villa. We have Newcastle players because that is the team that I watch, and then we have Chelsea for the midweek as with a mixture of Spurs because obviously that is the Europa League and Conference League like mixed into one, like one competition. That is also a very big part of the pro side. When the news gets announced, you want to be ahead of the market. You want to plan how you're going to build the lineups, X, Y, Z, who you're going to, who's going to be your backups, who's going in, blah 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 blah, priority lineups. But you get that because Sorare, I mean, at the moment they're releasing information about a month before it actually happens. So a month ago, Sorare obviously announced that they're going to have European nights. There'll be classic in season, and then you got Champions League, you got Europa League / Conference League. So obviously that's what I've been preparing for. So I think my gallery is quite strong in that regard of like backups and things like that. I definitely think it can be improved with more players like Son, who are just going to get them big scores. But I think as like terms of like a foundation, it's a really strong foundation, and I just need a couple more of them like big hitters. Like Bruno hasn't, he was meant to be that guy for me, but he's really not had that start of the season that I'm looking for him. Same with Son, to be honest. So it's at the moment I've sort of got big hitters that aren't really hitting, but my lesser players are sort of, what I mean, they're not doing too bad. Same with Isak's not really started the season too great, but I have faith in them. Obviously trust the process. And then looking at the second sort of part of my strategy. So obviously I've got the Premier League side, which has the European competition and international utility focus, and then I have more of the fun side, which is my under 23s, which is more players that are just like fun and will be in the rotation. So like Jacob Ramsey, Dragosim should be in the rotation. Couple of Spurs boys, and then we have some of the classic cards that I use predominantly in under 23s. João Pedro, great start to the season. Bino Gittins, not too much. Neuer Null, great purchase. Malera, I think he's gonna have a good season. Baena been brilliant. Madueke, brilliant. Naipan, another good player. Jeremy Pino back from injury. So yeah, I think under 23s is a bit more of like I have less expectation from that. I'm just sort of like, hopefully I get some under 23s essence. That'll be good. To help me craft and things like that. But yeah, I think overall my gallery I would say is pretty. It's like very strong in the areas that I've focused. I just need them big hitters to hit, if that makes sense. Obviously with the likes of like Tonali coming back, hopefully Isak and Gordon can you know, start their season off. And yeah, that's sort of my gallery. Let me know what you guys think. I will be doing another video. I think my next video will probably be on lineup builders and how I set these lineups out, what my thought process is going into a weekend. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. How you guys do you like my gallery? What would you change? Is there anyone that you think, oh, I could do with that? Like I said, I haven't shown you every single player that I have, but it's predominantly Newcastle because obviously can predict them. I want to get the high bonus percentage, and I just like Newcastle. Then we've got the midweek sort of as much utility as possible with the Premier League boys. You know, I went for international stuff. I went with under 23s. I'll scroll through the collections as you guys sort of as I'm talking. But yeah, I went with under 23s, things like that. Obviously Champions League for Aston Villa, and yeah, then sort of everything else is under 23s. Have a bit of fun. Also, another good thing for you guys to do is keep that short list, keep that track of players. Like here, I have a list of players that I sort of want to add. This is my next step. So for me, I want to have. So at the minute, I have Jorgensen and Madueke, who are not part of my in-season Chelsea collection. So I'm gonna look to try and sell them versions and buy the in-season version just for the collection bonus on them. And then I've got here you can see Watkins might be a good idea for me, Onana, Madueke, Jorgensen, like I said, Bergval just because I like him, and then I've got a little mini sort of short list here of players that you know haven't really been minted yet on Sorare or players that I think are good. I know Schmolix has now, but yeah, it's always good to have sort of like a short list or an idea of where you want to go next in these galleries. And yeah, I'll be interested to see. Like, obviously, this is my gallery. This is where I went with it, and I obviously really enjoyed building it. And obviously, you're always growing your gallery. Like everyone is constantly buying or winning like more and making their galleries better. And I'm just interested to see what you guys think about my gallery. If there's anything you could improve, and likewise, I might actually do a video where it's sort of like my opinions on your guys' galleries. So if you guys want me to look at your galleries and sort of have my two say, I don't know if it will be a video as such because obviously depends how many galleries or people that are interested. Maybe it's just like you guys could send me your gallery and then I can just sort of type back to you what I would do. I might make a video on it, I'm not too sure, but yeah. Anyway, let me know what you think of the gallery, what I can improve, and yeah, maybe drop your gallery in the comments, and then I'll have a little look and let you know what I think. But yeah, let's all help each other. Let's try and build a good community and get the best out of Sorare. You know, we're all trying to win here. We're all trying to make a profit and yield, and we can all win together, help each other out. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. With that being said, leave me a like, man, please. Leave me a like. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much. Bye.